So the final of the Super Rugby Pacific 2023 competition is here, and it is going to be Chiefs versus Crusaders, a game we've already seen twice this year, both times going in favour of the Chiefs. So there's that little bit of extra added tension to this contest. It should be an exciting one. And in this video, we will be doing a preview of the matchup, looking at the key players, few stats, and then also the prediction at the end of who we think will be able to win it. But it is myself and it is Tim from Rugbyitch. First of all, mate, I see you wearing the Crusaders kit. Is that maybe their lucky charm this week? Although, do they even need it with the way that they've been playing lately?
I don't think that they need it. Like, you know, they kind of just, they made me lose words again for, I don't know, the last 5 seasons now. And this is now the 5th time, really, as a Blues fan. So it really is just a bit, I don't know. I guess I just have to wear this in a bit of spirit, just to say, yeah, fair enough. You know, like you did us pretty good last week. So I got to rep the Crusaders jersey just for you guys, obviously watching. But no, I think they don't need my help in this. I think they have, you know, a ton of experience under their belt, of course, on their finals. I mean, I just saw the stats saying Scott Robinson's never lost a game in the finals. So I mean, this is pretty, in my opinion, I think this is very one-sided towards the Crusaders. But at the same time, I mean, like you said, the Chiefs have been the only team this year to beat them twice. You know, there could be something in that, actually, because, I mean, I'm trying to think, I don't think that's ever happened before in the previous times the Crusaders have won, right? I mean whenever they've won the final, I don't think anyone's beat them either home and away. I mean, because I know, like, what was that? The Blues last year, like, they only beat them away. And like previous years, like, you know, with, I don't know, like the Lions way back in the day. So it is interesting. I mean, yeah, but the Chiefs definitely have a good chance for sure.
And that home field advantage for the Chiefs. They have not lost a game yet this year at FMG Stadium. Of course, they had that kind of home but away game that they did lose to the Reds, played in Taranaki. But this game at FMG Stadium, it's an interesting one, though, because when you look at all the stats, I mean, the Crusaders, they beat the Blues. That was the first time since 2000. It was the first time since 2017 that an away side has won a Super Rugby final. So they know how to do it on the road. The Chiefs have had a couple hard-fought victories over Australian sides, but I feel like in a way you'd much rather those hard-fought victories in some regard than having a one-sided affair, because you may feel like there are still elements of your game that you can improve on heading into the final, whereas the Crusaders, they're at the top at the moment. They've got to have a bad game at some stage, don't they? But I feel like it's going to be next season, because the way they've been on the tier at the moment, getting record win in their quarterfinal, getting a record win in their semi-final, now moving on to the final at FMG.
It's absolutely crazy what they've done, really, just throughout the last, you know, like I said, the last few years now. But I mean, back on like what you said in terms of like, I guess like the scorelines which they produced. I mean, you could also make, I'm just thinking more in terms of a devil's advocate way, like saying, you know, the scorelines they have done, you know, kind of shows how impressive they've been actually throughout, you know, a lot of these games. You know, I mean, even like last year, I believe, like the Blues only just beat the Brumbies by like 1 point. And I think the Crusaders beat I think they beat the Chiefs, right? Was it the Chiefs or Hurricanes in the semifinal, I believe, last year? But it was actually by,
would have been, the Chiefs.
I think it was actually by a good, not as big of a margin, of course, like we saw this year, but it was definitely a bigger margin than what we saw, you know, in last year's semifinal for the Blues and Brumbies. So, I mean, it's kind of a similar circumstance where even if they've scored, you know, I don't know, if they have a higher points difference, they've definitely shown that they can go away and win the title. So I would love to say this is in the Chiefs' favor, by the way, guys. I would love to say it, but it's just every year they keep doing it. They keep doing it. And with Scott Robinson in charge, like this is his last year, of course, as we all know, he's going to the All Blacks after the World Cup. I feel like they'll want to do him justice, really, and kind of just allow him to have a kind of final, you know, swan song instead, at least. So
final dance, you could
exactly
say.
The final dance, the last dance, essentially. Yeah.
Now the question is, who are the key players for Scott Robinson's Crusaders, do you think, that will be able to help him over the line? I know that there are quite a few of those boys who have recently been selected for the ABs. A few of the others have also been selected for the All Blacks 15. An interesting part, though, is more than half of the All Black squad are actually playing throughout this game, whether it is for the Chiefs or the Crusaders. So injuries can still be a little bit of a factor. I'd expect quite a physical game here between the two sides. If the weather's anything like it has been recently in Hamilton, it's not going to be flash, as we have found out. Tim, what have you done this time? So with it being so physical, I feel like there could be a couple injuries lurking, which in a way gives opportunity to these other players who aren't selected in the All Blacks, who are selected maybe in the AB's 15, to then show what they can do. I know that one name comes to mind that I think is going to be a standout. He's not a Crusader, but we're going to mention him now anyway. Sean Stevenson, the fact that he was selected as injury cover for one individual player, I feel like he's going to be one who, if he has a big game here, maybe by the time that World Cup comes around, they might finally lock him into an actual jersey rather than if some buts type thing. But yeah, I think he's going to be good for the Crusaders. We see the return of Sam Whitelock, huge amount of experience for him. A lot of people were questioning whether he would actually be back. I believe even Ian Foster, in an interview I saw around the All Black selection, said they were doubtful that Whitelock was going to be back. So I hope that that's nothing that's going to cause a further injury for him.
Exactly.
If he is rushing that to come back for the final. But I think some of the key players, it's a tricky one. You look at someone like a Richie Mo'unga. He's going head-to-head with Damian McKenzie in that fly half battle. Everyone wants to know who's going to be that starting fly half. And I feel like this game may either cement it for someone or possibly change people's mind. At the moment, it still seems to be Mo'unga.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's Mo'unga's to lose essentially. But if the Chiefs win it and McKenzie plays a big part, then that could switch a few heads. Maybe the All Black selectors may have a tougher time in choosing between the two, really. So yeah, no, I agree.
And I think the harder part is deciding who plays up against the Pumas, because I think some people feel that there might be a slightly more experimental side up against Los Pumas, although they are a very tough challenge. You don't want to be losing that first game of the Rugby Championship. It's such a short format.
I really wouldn't underestimate the Pumas. I mean, they literally beat the All Blacks in New Zealand last year. And I think, in all honesty, I think they really have now demonstrated that they have the ability to beat any team in this competition. I don't really see the Pumas as a surprise package anymore. I think they now have the ability to just be like, you know what, on their day, they can just beat you. That's really what it is. It's like I'm trying to think of another side like that. Scotland, maybe, or like Wales, kind of like that territory, like where on their day, if everyone's on they will definitely beat you. And I think they've demonstrated that throughout previous games. So yeah, I really wouldn't underestimate that game. But no, yeah, a lot of these players, it's going to be really fascinating to see what actually happens on that front. I mean, in terms of my ones to watch players, I'd say for this game, I mean, I would definitely say that for the Crusaders, I don't even one person in mind I was thinking, because it's probably the biggest bolter you could say out of the All Black selection. I think I'd have to go Das McLeod here, because he has been, incredible for the Crusaders out this year, and I just think he's really just risen in terms of his form, and I think he's kind of hit top form really. Particularly in that semifinal, of course, and I think he can kind of carry that on into the final, and I believe he can have a big part to play, because again, without Severis, he would normally be within the final. You would suspect he's kind of taking that position now, and he's doing pretty well. It's really fascinating to see what they can do with him in terms of the Crusaders, but also, later down the line with the All Blacks. So I do think he'll have a big part to play in this game. But again, for the Chiefs, it may be a bit obvious, but I think Sam Cane is probably a big player in this kind of final, because you're gonna have the battle between him and Tom Christie, and I always say that the battle of the seven is one of the most crucial battles actually in the game, because whoever wins kind of the breakdown, that's going to dictate who kind of has a lot of possession, I think. And I think these two are insane in terms of in terms of the breakdown. I'd say this year, I've actually been a lot more impressed with Christie's tackling this year. But in terms of the breakdown, I think Sam Cane does edge it, because I think he just, that experience overseas. So it's going to be close. But yeah, I'd say Cane for the Chiefs, and I'd say Das McLeod for the Crusaders are my ones watch player.
Okay, so for me, I'm thinking that loose forward trio as well. For the Chiefs, Luke Jacobson, number 8. There were talks that during the breakdown, they were saying that last week's semi-finals actually confirmed a player and took a player away. And people were feeling that might have been Jacobson in, Hoskins the 2-2 out.
Yeah.
I feel like Jacobson, if he can keep on backing up these performances, definitely has a good start in that loose forward trio. And whether that is maybe transitioning to number 6 so he full-time has that spot, or maybe he goes 8 and Savi is 7 if they need to give Sam Cane a little bit of a break. There's still a lot of working out the All Blacks do have to do in that loose forward trio. And now that they don't have a Kiriwani, now that they don't have Hoskins the 2-2, Peter Gus Sowakula. There are a few less combinations
that
they
I
can go with. But yeah, I'd say Jacobson, big game. Retallick, he's going to be up against 2 All Blacks locks and Scott Barrett and Sam Whitelock. Last week, he was phenomenal. Like, the gas tank of the man is very impressive. The fact that he was still able to get that last-minute try up against the Brumbies after a very physical matchup, I feel like he is another one that if he can do that in the final up against the Crusaders, try and really push them. Line-out time is going to be huge for these two sides, seeing as both do have 2 All Blacks. Could be very telling for the Rugby Championship just around the corner. So my keys, I'm going to go Mo'unga 10 for the Crusaders. And I am going to go... See, it's a tricky one because you could also look through a few of these other backs here, like such as Anton Leonard-Brown for the Chiefs. He needs to have a big game here, I would say.
That's true.
Because if he does, that could almost confirm that number 12 jersey for the All Blacks. But then you've got someone as well like a Peter Gus Sowakula getting added into the starting lineup. He needs to have a massive final because with Samapeni Finau, one of the bolters who got called into the ABs, it makes it that Peter Gus, unfortunately for him now, unless he keeps on playing well, he's going to slowly go further and further down that pecking order because now he's got a Kiriwani and Hoskins Atutu to compete with to try and get that spot back after the All Blacks have now confirmed their side. So I've said about 15 players, but we will
exactly. As I say, there's a lot of players there.
And for the Chiefs, I'm going to go Luke Jacobson.
Okay, fair enough.
Just because I feel like lately he's been playing very well. Physicality, few big hits coming in, maybe off the back of a scrum, pushing them. I have to get that ball out relatively quick up against the Crusaders. We've seen that throughout the season with what other sides have found out.
Yeah, Tom Cruise will just go in and just take it away from it if he doesn't go quickly.
Yeah, him versus Sam Cane's kind of like the old versus the new, isn't it?
I really do think, like, again, you are right that probably the battle of the game is probably the 210s because that really could determine what happens in terms of, the All Black setup. But in my opinion, I think if you're really talking about the unsung hero, the unsung battle of the game, I really do think it's between Kane and Christie because I'll be honest, guys. I mean, I wasn't really a huge fan of Christie, I'd say, from previous seasons, but I'm now starting to see kind of he's having more of an impact on this Crusaders side. And I think he's really stepping up now in terms of these finals now because in the past, I mean, yes, he was good within the breakdown, of course, and we all know he's good within, his tackling success, but he's making it at crucial points within the game now, which is what really sets players apart from other like kind of loose forwards. And I think that's what he's doing a lot more now. So that's the reason why I think he could challenge Sam Cane in this game. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in that set.
And I also mentioned not selected for the All Blacks, not selected for the All Blacks 15. So he was one of the players who missed out. And said it was Billy Harmon. Nah, he's not in there. He was one of the surprise names.
He wasn't in the All Blacks 15?
No. He missed out.
Are you sure? I thought he was...
I am sure. Well, at least you're making me question about 90%.
No, I think you're right because I guess it's not as surprising because, again, the big omission, like, out of everything was Hoskins Atutu because, of course, he was in the All Blacks and wasn't even in the All Blacks XV. But, wow, I thought Christie would have been a part of that. But, yeah, you know what? I think you are right because they actually chose, Duplessis Karifi, I think, ahead of him, right?
And then also Billy Harmon was.
But yeah, I think Billy Harmon though deserves it. I think he's the one which I've always I mentioned him within my prediction video. I was like, yeah, I can see him having a chance. But Karifi, I would choose Christie over Karifi any day, and I'd even put Christie in the conversation for the All Blacks. So it's really fascinating to see that. But again, what can obviously switch in the next in the next few months, well, following the next few months after the World Cup. So. We'll see what happens in that sense.
Speaking of seeing what's going to happen, now we're up to that stage of a prediction, Tim, for this matchup. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you look at a side that's in record form once again. You look at a side that they have the perfect underdog story. But the thing is, it's weird being an underdog when you've only lost one game throughout the season.
It doesn't really make sense.
Top of the table finish.
It's what the Blues had last year, by the way. They only lost one game last year. So they're in familiar territory, but again, we saw from last year. Yeah, the Blues learned the lesson that number one on the leaderboard doesn't mean anything when you're facing the Crusaders. So it's okay. I'll go first with my prediction. I'll leave it to you last because I think this is your predictions will be the most important one, I think, because I'm very interested to see what you say. But I think in my head, I'm kind of thinking, I would love to say the Chiefs, because I think the Chiefs are probably. I think the Chiefs are the one team who I think even from the beginning of the Super Rugby season, I thought could actually break down the Crusaders. And we even saw them within, I think it was like the opening round. I was like, oh my gosh, something could happen here in terms of their, I guess the the fall down of the Crusaders, I don't know, legacy. But I mean, the Crusaders have just shot up into form like recently in the last 5 rounds, and they've done it like in spectacular form within the playoffs. So I actually wanted to say the Chiefs would win this game, by the way, but after the last 2 performances in the playoffs, I'm finding it very hard to not say the Crusaders. And because there's no, I mean, is there any big injuries? I mean, again, you have all the injuries, of course, beforehand, but there's no recent injuries.
There's no late changes.
Exactly. There's no
anyone.
recent injuries that have happened or anything like that. So yeah, if it's the same sides, I'm gonna go with the Crusaders. It breaks me to say this, guys, as a police fan. I think the Crusaders do have the better shots in winning this final. But again, I do think it'll be a close game. So I'll say they'll win this game. I think it'll be very tight in the scoreline, though. I'm gonna say 22 points, 19. Something like that. 22 points and 19 to Crusaders.
Okay, I won't hold it against you because my score is kind of similar.
Ooh, I thought you actually may go to the Chiefs.
I want to, but I feel like the big factor here is not just going to be who the 2 sides put out there on the park, but also the weather. Because I think from those last few games that we've seen, if it's going to be pouring down with rain, I want to say that heavily benefits the Crusaders. Not that the Chiefs have played badly in this wet conditions kind of thing. Yeah, it's a bit dark and dingy down these parts sometimes, so you got to make sure you're good in the rain because it's pretty much every weekend at some stage. But yeah, I feel like in the wet conditions, the Crusaders will definitely be that more clinical side out of the 2. So I'm going to say if it's wet, it's going to be a little bit more one-sided, I would say. So if it's wet, I'm going to say that the score will be 27 points to 16 in favor of the Crusaders. So an 11-point difference. That's a big
margin for a final. That's a big margin.
Yeah, but in the rain, But if it's not raining and we've actually got dry conditions, I'm going to say the Crusaders only win it by 5. And I'm going to say it will be 21 points to 16. For some reason, I like 16 as the score for the Chiefs.
It's a good mark there. I do think this will. I'll be honest. I just can't see the Crusaders getting a higher score than 30 in this game. I don't think it's possible because it's a final. I don't think finals allow that kind of amount of points.
It's just an unwritten rule, isn't it?
But
not allowed any more than allowed. That 30 or so. We didn't do this last week, but we're going to do it this week. First try scorer as well, just because we've given our predictions.
Like it.
See how close we can get. For me, I will go first with this one, if that's all right. I am going to lock in a lock. I'm going to say Scott Barrett to score the first try.
Okay. I like that.
You thought I was going to go Retallick again, did you?
No, the thing is that I think out of all the locks, I think he's probably the most likely to score. Because he's always in the action in terms of the Crusaders, so I do like that pick. Yeah, It's a good pick. I think on my front, I mean, look, this is probably a bad move for me, but I always go for one of the wingers for one of the sides, or I look at the hooker because they're like the try scoring machines when it comes towards any final. But both these sides have a great set piece, so it's kind of leaning me towards the hooker. And out of Takalaho or Cody Taylor, I mean, I think I said this last week, but I'm gonna go Cody Taylor again. I'm gonna go Cody Taylor to get the first try.
Okay, fair enough. Doesn't look good for the Chiefs, does it?
You've had everything in favor of
the But the good news is, Tim, we are often wrong. So
exactly,
this could easily be a Chiefs victory, and yeah, it's just around the corner. That laugh makes me concerned.
Oh, Chiefs, do me justice, mate. For all the Blues fans out there, please do us justice.
I thought you were repping the red to show your respects to the Crusaders because they beat your Blues side.
If I could rip this up, I would. But in honor of the Crusaders, what they did last week, it just feels wrong. It feels unsportsmanlike. Let's just say that. It feels unsportsmanlike.
But nonetheless, thank you all very much for tuning into this preview. Do let us know your score predictions down in the comments as well. We are both doing the live stream, I believe, for the match on respective channels, so be sure to check those out as well. Check out Rugbyitch. He's got Super Rugby videos coming out in the near future. He told me that he's currently got 9 on the go.
Sure. 9. Possibly 9, but there are a lot of videos coming out, guys, so definitely look forward to them.
Nonetheless, thank you all very much for tuning in. We will see you all for the next one.